Greetings, people. AJ, just let your hands go. Seeing AJ last night was a bittersweet experience. He has all the tools to become heavyweight world champion again. But he needs to conquer his demons, that subconscious mind first. The loss to Ruiz has scarred his psyche, and last night made that apparent. 6 or so fights later, he is still reluctant to fight inside. AJ was shuffling forward nicely, putting himself in great positions, but didn't let his hands go, as we know he can. There wasn't very much punch selection, although what he was doing was effective, popping the jab out and searching for the right hand, which finally did land. I feel if he'd used his full repertoire, it would shut his critics up and he would have got the job done quicker. While your trainer is responsible for tactics and advice in training camp and in your corner, it is up to you to know when and how to implement it. Good boxers listen to the game plan, but also have the ability to use their own initiative in the heat of battle. Your instincts must be sound. Too much responsibility is put on the coach. He can't think for you, and he isn't in there getting the real-time feel for the opponent's physical, spiritual and mental strengths and weaknesses. He can only observe the action taking place from outside. You, though, can pick up on the micro movements, the breathing patterns, the intensity, the intent, especially up close in a clinch. There's something called flow state. It's a hyper-focused state when you are fully immersed in what you are doing, so much so that the instincts takes over. And movement, balance, punch selection, cardio, punch resistance becomes near impossible to subdue. This is why it's important to get into a rhythm and prevent your opposition from getting into theirs. Mayweather was a master of disrupting his opponent's rhythm and disguising his so he couldn't get timed. Usyk is a boxer that builds his rhythm so well that at the end of his fights, he gets better and better. Loma, the same. Boots Ennis, Crawford, all the top fighters. It's not a coincidence that they love to dance also. Lomachenko's dad, for instance, enrolled him into dance classes where he learnt hopak, a traditional Ukrainian dance. He was also a bit of a b-boy. In fact, arguably the best boxer ever, Sugar Ray Robinson's first love was dancing, and he did it for a living before returning to boxing. Apparently, Joe Calzaghe's dad trained him to jazz. But anyway, I digress. I say that to say this. AJ needs to find his rhythm, his groove. He needs to believe in himself more. He needs to listen to the instructions, but not so he becomes completely dependent on someone else's voice more than his own inner voice. He needs to use his own initiative and intuition in his fights. He needs to enter flow state. He has to stop listening to the media. He says he doesn't care, but I think he does, and too much so. He's a very sensitive, thoughtful young man, but he overthinks. Another thing I'd like to address is his chin. His chin is sound, despite what people say. He's always got up, and Wilder and Fury have hit the deck more times than him. Think about it. He is one of the fastest punchers in the division. He's faced a bigger array of styles than any of the top heavyweights right now. He's got all he needs, but he has to break the spell and climb out of that psychological prison. And the only way he'll be able to do that is by doing what he fears. Get back into the wheelhouse. He's mastered working on the outside. Now he needs to mix it with his natural ability to work inside. He has to remember, Ruiz had extraordinarily fast hands. It's unlikely he'll be caught like that again by any other heavyweight. But even if you do, be prepared to get up and go again, like we know he's done in the past. Certain fighters program themselves to be like a rock, like a stone. Marvin Hagler and Jake LaMotta, they come to mind. They are renowned for having granite chins. The mind is extremely powerful, and that's AJ's real opponent. Being too tentative will get him knocked out.
And sleep tight.
But considering the short notice of Helenius, who is a good boxer, and he just come off a win a week ago, so he's trained, he's seasoned, and AJ has been training for a completely different opponent in Dillian Whyte and had to deal with a completely different, a better boxer in Helenius. He did well. We just want to see him let those hands go inside. So it was a good test, but for my money, I think he needs another fight before he goes in there with Wilder. Even though he's got all the tools, he's a better boxer, his mind has to be right. Just my opinion. Thank you. Please subscribe and choose life.
Sleep tight, pal.